day, my wonderful and successful international student. Today, we're going to start talking about why is it so challenging for international students to get organized. And I need to clarify something right from the beginning. This is not just another video about how to get organized, in which I'm going to be telling you about which apps to use or how to create your own to-do list or anything like that. There are thousands, probably even millions of tutorials about time management and getting organized, but this is not that big. What we're going to be doing here is going beyond. The reason why many of those videos do not really work for international students, it's because international students are not just trying to get organized. The real challenge here for international students is trying to understand why does it feel so hard? Why is it so challenging for me as an international student to get organized when I am studying abroad? When you move to a different country as an international student, you're not just packing your bag, you're actually packing your entire way of life. And with this, you're bringing your own cultural approach to time management. You have different ways to prioritize, of course, and we're coming from countries in which we see professional and academic priorities in a different way. Not bad, not better, just in a different way. Well, that's why things don't work because we're trying to operate in a system that works in a completely different way. So, generic advice and generic tutorials on time management, most of the times I'm just going to focus on tasks. But we have to understand that international students have a dual life. We are in a completely different environment in which we are trying to understand a different type of chaos. Moving to a different country means adapting to a different ways of doing things. And that is always very, very challenging. So it's not your fault if you're getting organized. It's not that you're lazy if it's very challenging for you. You're just trying to get adjusted to navigate in a new, multiple way of systems, in cultural differences, and in many invisible expectations. In a new country, everything is happening at the same time. So in this mini lesson, first, we're going to need to understand where this constant feeling of being overwhelmed is coming from. And then I will provide you with a general, very generic framework for you to build your own system that will help you develop your skill on something you have never done before. So this is about organizing your dual life on your own terms so you can create a space that not just for your survival, but a space in which you could truly fulfilling have an experience that it's going to be meaningful and it's going to help you thrive, become a successful international student. So let's understand how this cultural clash of systems is affecting us. The barrier then is usually not laziness. It's a cultural operating system mismatch. And organization in self-management across cultures is always going to be challenging for international students. We have to understand this. Organization, it's not universal. Organization and the way we see organization, it's cultural. And let's begin with that. In Western educational systems, we have a linear time culture in which we see time as a limited resource. And that is the reason why we manage time and we schedule time very strictly. That is the reason why punctuality and deadlines are paramount in order to be successful as an international student in countries like Canada, like the US, of course, UK, Australia, etc. Now, most of us, we come sometimes from countries in which we have a perspective of time about being more flexible. And in this case, I believe it's very important to talk about real life examples. You have probably heard or known, or if you know other Mexicans, we're usually known as people who tend to be very impunctual. And we actually have a saying, and this is something very common in Mexico, and I am sure maybe in many countries in Latin America, you're probably going to feel like this resonates with you. In Mexico, for example, if you're invited to a party and the invitation says, okay, the party starts at 9 o'clock p.m., nobody is expected to arrive at 9. If the invitation says 9 o'clock, probably people are going to start arriving at around 10:30 or 11 p.m. And it's very common in cities like in Mexico City. In Mexico City, I believe we try to adopt a more linear perspective to time too. I remember when I was invited to a reunion or to a meeting, I will always ask the guest, okay, the invitation says 7, but do you mean we should be there by 7 or should we there at around 9? Because if you tell me 7, I'm going to arrive at 7. But, and then they will tell me, no, we say 7, maybe thinking people will start arriving between 9 and 9:30. Okay, now I know I'm not going to be there by 7. I will be there by 9. So this type of seeing time differently, this characteristic we have in different cultures, well, this is the beginning. This is the reason. This is why is it so challenging for many international students to get organized. Just because we come from a different system. And it takes a while to understand that we are arriving into countries in which time is not seen that way. So the first thing I'm going to talk about here is, and one of the first strategies I'm going to give you is learn and be in a way in which you can adopt this new linear way of dealing with time. I don't mean that you need to stop being who you are, of course, because we have our own identity and we bring our own culture into these new countries as international students, and we should always be proud of that. However, when you come into a country, well, you're also expected to adapt to some of those ways of seeing many of the situations related, in this case, to academic submission of assignments, for example. So focus on building a hybrid system. First, understand, okay, I am coming to a country in which submitting assignments on time, it's paramount. It's not about, oh, you know what, I forgot. You know what, professor, I missed the deadline. Can I just send an assignment to your email? Things don't work like that. So when we start adopting a more linear time and we understand how important that is the first step. It has to be a change of mindset. It has to be first understanding and adopting this new mindset in which you have to say, okay, I accept, I understand, I need to start to see things different. That is the first step. If you don't go through that personal awareness and that personal work of convincing yourself first that you need to have a different mindset, you need to work changing that mindset. None of the tutorials about getting organized are going to work. That's why they don't work, because they don't explain to you how these different cultural backgrounds clash and why this is so difficult. At first, you do not accept and make peace with the fact this is a new world, this is a new way of seeing things, and I am willing to adopt a more linear time culture to be more successful in this country as an international student. So that is number one. Focus, as I was saying, on building hybrid system that may help you in your new environment. Let me give you an example. Remember in one of my previous videos, I was telling you that we professors, instructors, we always give to our students, and in the syllabus, not only you see the plan for each one of the weeks, usually in our syllabus, we also list when we have quizzes planned, when we have big assignments or projects. Also, the midterms are already there, they're already calendarized. And of course, the final exam is also calendarized. Some of the most important information related to your course, and sometimes the keys to succeeding in your studies with each course are there in the syllabus. So the first strategy I am giving you right now, go to your students, to your class syllabus, go to the syllabus, okay? And try to identify in your syllabus those important dates. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to give you an example why it is so important about making sure you understand those dates. And you start calendarizing and having either using post-its, calendar, an app, whatever you need. You need to be aware when important deadlines are coming. And I'll give you an example. Last term, one of my students, I remember on week 2, he told me once on the class or in the class, he told me, you know what, Professor Instructor Ada, I won't be coming next week. So I just wanted to tell you that I'm not coming next week. And I actually was surprised because I told him, you are aware we have a quiz next week, right? Well, no, I didn't know. And I said, why aren't you coming? Oh, because I organized a skiing trip with my friends on that day, which of course was very surprising to me because it's on a day we have classes, right? And he said, oh, well, I just thought, I could miss maybe the class, but I didn't know we had a quiz. Can I take the quiz some other day? Of course not. Did you read our syllabus? No, going on a skiing trip with your friends, it's not a reason to miss a quiz. And of course, you cannot take the quiz on other day because you won't be here. You're going to lose your participation percentage for the day. You're going to lose, of course, the grade for that quiz. And that's exactly what happened. He didn't cancel his skiing trip. He didn't come to class. He missed the quiz. And his grades went down. Even when he tried to catch up, he finished our course with a B minus final grade, which of course at the end affects your GPA. And this is a real life example I'm giving you about what could be some of those consequences when we don't take in consideration the importance of deadline and when we don't understand how important it's to get organized. So this syllabus example, I hope this is your first start. Go to your syllabus, look at all the deadlines, and again, regardless of whatever app, calendar, if you're using whatever app you're using, try to make sure everything is calendarized. I always tell my students as well, for example, at Vancouver Community College, all students, we all use Outlook, right? And Outlook provides a calendar. So I always tell them, well, you have the calendar there when we have the quizzes, mark when we have important deadlines, big assignments, and big project deadlines, so you don't miss them. And when you know that, then you can plan, of course, your trips. I'm not trying to say I don't want you to go on skiing trips with your friends, because of course we know that is important, but you can plan other activities, making sure you're still committing to your academic deadlines, etc. Okay, so that's what number one. Number two, and this sometimes is so overlooked by many of my students. Set time aside for planning your calendars and your schedules. We were talking last week about the importance of planning. And again, I go back to the cultural differences. I was telling my students that back in Mexico, for a long time ago, sometimes we think the time we spend planning is time that is being wasted because we come from cultures in which Okay, what are you doing in your desk? You should be doing things. Well, I'm planning. No, planning is not doing anything. Planning, no. You should be solving things. You should be working on strategy. You should be already doing things. So we're more focused in doing, and we're not so much focused on planning. We do not understand the relevance and importance of planning. So that's recommendation number two. Set aside time for planning. And I know you may not be used to this. And I know this might be new for many international students. But setting time for planning is going to make you even more successful. For example, make sure at least once per week for 1 hour, half an hour, get your cup of coffee, maybe on a Sunday morning, where listen to your favorite music, but make sure you will say, okay, every Sunday from 10 to 10:30, I'm going to go to my favorite coffee shop just to organize my following week. So, in this planning time that you're going to have, number one, your academic deadlines for the week. Which are my academic deadlines for the week? Okay, when do I need to get together with my team members to start working also on team project? I also tell my students a deadline doesn't mean you submit your assignment that day at that time. A deadline means that is the last bit. So you set yourself your own personal deadline 1 or 2 days before, just in case anything goes wrong. For example, I had students this week. Oh, professor and instructor, I didn't submit my assignment because my computer crashed. Okay, but you had 1 week. When did your computer crash? Oh, on the same day I was supposed to submit my assignment. And then the question is, why did you wait until the last day to do your assignment if you had 8 days to do it? Again, when you start thinking in a linear way, you start planning ahead. And when you plan ahead, you make sure you're also, just in case, making sure that no matter what, I will be on time. So if the deadline is on a Friday, you set yourself in your own planning. My own personal deadline then will be Wednesday night. I need to have this assignment ready by Wednesday night. Why? Because in case anything goes wrong, your computer crashes, Wi-Fi is not working, any excuse, you still have one day to do your work, to make up the work you didn't do, you will still submit on time. But you see, it's a new way of thinking. It's a different mindset. That's why I keep telling you guys, it's not about watching tutorials and getting organized. It's about becoming aware and convincing yourself, I need to learn a new skill on how to get organized, something I have never done before, but you can do it. Now, once you set aside this time for planning, then again, make sure you have your academic deadlines. You can also write maybe your life admin deadlines, like if you have to pay your bank, your credit card, you have to pay your taxes, maybe if you have some mails you need to send to your immigration lawyer. All those commitments will be in that week. And this leads me to recommendation number three. Do not try to plan the whole month, the whole semester. Of course, if you can do that, at least, having the main midterm, final term, final exam days there, well, that is good. But you don't have to begin with short term achievable goals. And the recommendation number three is a very achievable goal. Plan only 1 week in advance. Just plan your week. That's it. Focus only on what you have to do the following week, what I have to do on Monday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. And make sure, of course, you write down your school commitments and deadlines for it. But also make sure you block time to study for your classes. A lot of the students believe that studying abroad and being a successful international student is just going to school, doing assignments, and that's it. limited time for analyzing, going back to the last lecture that you just took, making sure you have no questions, maybe doing some research, using AI to understand things you may not have understood in class. And if you don't set up time for those studying periods, you're never going to do it. What we usually do is, oh, when I have time, I'll do it when I have time. You won't be doing it. I know you won't be doing it. And at the end, you're always going to feel, I'm behind, I'm behind. So plan those half an hour, 1 hour, half an hour in your week to sit down and just go back to your notes from your previous classes. As I already mentioned, life admin should also be there in anything that has to do with, I don't know, mails to your lawyer, your bank statements, paying credit cards, paying your cell phone bill, etc. But finally, also make sure to include in your weekly plan social commitment. Remember, I have told you in my previous videos, you need to get together with your friends, get out. So you're also going to mark there, I don't have anything social in the week. Well, I need to add something. So I'm going to call one of my classmates, and right after we finish working in our project, we're going to go out and have coffee. Very good. Or I'm going to meet on Wednesday with one of my classmates, and we're going to go have coffee, and maybe we're going to get together to do our assignments, but at least we'll be in the same coffee shop and we can share a cup of coffee, right? Or I'm going to do one of those meet up group meetings, or I'm going to go for a walk. Try to make sure that you also mark those activities, those social activities and social exploration activities into your calendar. The final recommendation, of course, is one night before, when you're ready to go to bed, check your agenda for the next day. So you know exactly what time you have to get up, how long it's going to take you to get to your school, then what you have to do after school. Do you have to go shopping? Do you have to see your friends, your classmates, to get together and maybe talk about one of your class projects? Always checking your schedule for the next day is going to make you feel that you are under control. And you'll be actually making sure you're not missing any important commitment. So again, as I told you, this video was not about apps, about calendars, or anything like that. And what I would like you to share in the comments now is, if you have already been a successful international student, share with some of the future international students that will watch our videos some of the strategies that may have helped you getting organized when you arrived into your country. If you're about to become an international student, also sharing your questions, maybe what are the doubts you have? Because I imagine, and we're going to make another video about what to do before your study abroad program. As you can see, our channel is exclusively trying to adapt techniques, but trying to understand what is involved in being an international student and how I can become better at what I'm already doing. And finally, please do not forget, it's not only about studying abroad, it's about thriving abroad. You know I believe in you. You've got this, and I will see you in our next episode. Ciao.